Guys, so this is AP World History, Chapter 6, Part 2, Early Societies in South America. So the other video, we looked at Mesoamerica, which you guys know as Latin America, and we looked at how the Olmecs, the Mayas, and the Teotihuacan, they all pretty much lived in that area, and they shared very similar cultural traditions and backgrounds. So today we're going to look at South America. So the thing with South America is that we really don't know too much about it, about the societies that are there. So when we look at it, this is the area we're talking about along the Andes Mountains, okay? Especially the Mochica, which is like over here, and the Chavin. That's what we're really going to focus on today. So the early Andes, what we do know is about their agriculture, of course. So the earliest cultivators, they relied on a lot of beans that you see up here, different variations of beans. They were also able to domesticate the llama and the alpaca for their use. And they had very distinct styles of pottery. And the things that they created with their pottery was very interesting, more so about daily affairs than anything else. One of the things that we see in the early Andean societies is this cult called the Chavin cult. So it's a new religion near the Andes Mountains. We don't know the real significance of the cult, meaning we don't really know why it started, how it started. It's really named after the town that they've discovered the cult in, the artifacts about the cult. One theory is that when they began to grow corn, that this cult became obsessed with kind of honoring the fertility of it, honoring agriculture and the fertility so it can continue to grow. So it's designed to promote fertility and abundant harvest. We do know that it existed because there were large temples that they found in this area. Other animal carvings, they found artifacts that represented the Chavin cult. So that's how we know this cult was important at this time. They also found, here's the temple, one of the temples, remains of one of the temples that they found. So these Chavin cults inspired the building of ceremonial centers rather than making true cities. Again, another way that we know that the cult was important. They didn't have these major cities, but they were important enough to create temples for. So that's kind of a difference in regards to comparing it to river valley civilizations where the temple's usually in the city. In terms of political and economic integration of the Andean Valley, the western side of the Andes Mountains, Peru and Bolivia, are right there. So that's what's happening in the west. On the other side, obviously, you have the ocean. So what begins to happen is that states emerge when the conquerors unify the individual valleys and organize them into society. So once you have people who conquer, they pretty much bring these small valleys and villages together under one rule, and they use their control to establish trade and exchange networks. All right, so each region, depending on where they were, they're going to contribute to the larger state. So maybe somebody who's on the coast, they're obviously going to contribute, fish, and somebody who's living in a village is going to contribute the maize or some sort of agricultural product. But they all contributed something. One of the areas that it looks at is the Mochica state. Here it is, the Mochica land. It's an early Andean state. Mochica ceramics take the form of portraits, individual heads, and other gods and deities and demons. So we don't know a lot about them. We just know what we do because of the artifacts that we found. But the artifacts tell a lot about the kind of society it was. Obviously, if they're making heads of gods and deities, then there was a religion that existed there. They're also, had specialization of labor, which means that they weren't just, farmers, that there was some sort of complexity that led them to have this different specialization of labor. Okay, so 7. How can specialization of labor help contribute to the economy? All right, so this was a pretty much a short video. Talked about all about the Andean societies. Very short because there's not much to tell. There's not a lot of written records on them, but what is revealed are your takeaways. The takeaways that there was a complex society that existed. There were cults. that honored gods and deities, um, that it was united when they were conquered, and the unity created an economic network, and that specialization of labor played into that economic network. Okay, so our last video is going to be on early societies of Oceania, and we'll see you then.